What's up, and welcome to today's video. We're going to be watching how a $20 game destroyed the entire AAA industry. Now this one is going to be for the gamers in the chat, because I'm a gamer myself and I find videos like these interesting, especially being a game developer. So very interested to see what he has to say about this. So let's see what's going on. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Let's get into it. We got some food today.
On March 24th, 2025, Schedule 1 was released on Steam. No marketing, no warning.
I've never heard of this, or I've never played this game, but I heard about it. I kept seeing
Have you heard of
YouTube videos of people playing
it? A one-man dev team that's gotten crazy popular lately.
I think it's like selling
with another
drugs,
video
right?
Schedule 1.
I didn't expect to find this same sense of cozy escapism in a game about manufacturing and selling drugs in a grimy city, but with Schedule 1, that's exactly what I got.
Schedule 1 is a game about friendship. It's about making connections. It's about starting from the bottom and working your way up. It's a game about drugs.
When I first wrote this episode, Schedule 1 was one of the most played games on Steam, with over 200,000 concurrent players. But even after a month, Schedule 1 is still one of the highest selling games on Steam. It was released in the same week as the greatly anticipated Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it not only outperformed it, but destroyed it. How did this happen? How did a game with an estimated $400 million budget get outshone in sales, attention, and overall enjoyment by a drug dealing game made by one single developer?
Probably because it had more niche and playability and unique gameplay
Schedule
experience.
1 is essentially a drug dealing simulator. Set in the fictional town of Highland Point, its core gameplay loop contains growing, packaging, and selling drugs for a profit. As you increase your output, you grow your customer base to the point where the entire town is addicted to your products. You also start from selling cannabis to moving on to more hardcore drugs in order to make a larger profit. And your main goal in the entire game is to become the kingpin of Highland Point, having everyone and everything in your control. When reading that aloud, it sounds like the game is pretty serious. But what makes this game so inviting is that even with a subject as heavy as drugs, it doesn't take itself seriously at all.
This game takes the basic idea that goes all the way back to Drug Wars, the game we all had on our TI-86 calculators back in the day, and it combines it with
Shout out to
crafting
TI-86
and Grand Theft Auto. Kind of a first-person GTA Chinatown Wars, only you're not just selling drugs, you're also manufacturing them. Everything's a little exaggerated, owing to the cartoonish characters, and while the graphics aren't going to blow everyone away, they're honestly more consistent and solid than you often get with these one-man indie games.
But this carefree style shouldn't discredit how seriously this game commits to the bit. A fun detail in the game is that certain drugs will create different visual effects on the customers, like making someone glow, getting them electrocuted, or even removing one of their eyes to make them look like a cyclops. And the drug dealing process is only one facet of the game. It has a police system, pickpocketing, cars, skateboards, money laundering. It has the full package.
Even repetitive tasks like harvesting reefer and packaging it into little jars for distribution are oddly enjoyable. Watering crops, mixing ingredients, and breaking a freshly baked tray of crystal all feel really satisfying and lulled me into a contented, meditative state that almost made me forget I was committing numerous felonies.
And when you combine a fun and addictive gameplay loop, pun intended, and mix it with incredible attention to detail in everything that surrounds it, the game is bound to gain some attention. But it's more than that. Beyond the pure fun that this game brings, the most impressive aspect about this game has nothing to do with the game itself, but the making of it. Because the entirety of this game was made by one single developer.
Games made by one guy, beating teams of 1,000 developers, tens of thousands if we're going to count Ubisoft.
I believe it. That's like
the game's biggest strength when it comes to the virality that it has achieved is that right now, indie game developers are providing players with the best experience in the entire gaming industry. First of all, indie games are games developed independently of major publishers, meaning the indie game creators retain complete control over their projects. This means that although indie developers want their game to sell well to earn a living, because there isn't any pressure to make a giant return on investment, their greatest motivation is their passion for making games.
Indie developers can afford to be more player friendly because they don't have these
investors hanging over their heads and these massive budgets.
And this is the first aspect in which indie games are doing right by gamers. Why players
That's exactly
connect
why
with this
I haven't continued development on the game that I'm working on, because I don't want like any financial constraints to play a part in making the game good. Like to be like, oh, I'm gonna rush the game so we can get it out and sell it. No, I'm not gonna do that. Or like, oh, I need to change certain aspects so that the game is profitable. Not gonna do that either. It's gonna be like, this game's meant to be a good game and a good experience overall, like trumping everything else. Which makes a lot of sense because, you know, that's what ultimately, in a lot of scenarios, ends up garnering the most attention and getting the most money. Is like the most authentically enjoyable gameplay, like regardless of how it's packaged in a lot of scenarios.
So
as we're seeing,
like
right here,
it adds a level of authenticity and personal touch to the playing experience. If a certain detail doesn't look the best, many other developers at bigger studios might have the attitude of good enough. But an indie developer who is passionate about what they're creating, they have the attitude of it needs to be better. And when a game is made from pure passion and has that attitude towards the game they make, players can always feel it through the game's quality. Indie games also often rely on limited resources, but make up for it with bold ideas, innovative gameplay, and a willingness to take risks that bigger studios might shy away from. This allows
100%.
new releases to stay fresh, and they are able to push the boundaries of what is possible in games.
But like I said, AAA gaming has been in decline for some time. Meanwhile, indie games have become a spawning pool for creativity and imagination.
This constant movement and reinvention in indie games is what gamers love the most. Although sequels to successful games can also be very enjoyable, gamers will always yearn for new experiences. When an indie game can take a pre-existing genre and add a completely new twist on it, players will instantly be drawn to it. And on top of this personal, ever-evolving touch, indie games are just cheaper than their big-budget competitors. In recent
100%.
years, the average price of AAA games has skyrocketed, whereas indie game prices have relatively remained the same. And in the middle of a cost of living crisis, no gamer wants to be spending more than $100 on a single game. So when an indie game is more personal, more innovative, and is 80% cheaper than other games in their space, and it's no wonder why indie games are filling up players' Steam libraries. Okay, although the case for their success is strong, by no means are they perfect. I mean, what makes Schedule 1 such a surprise is that it is so well made right off the bat. Indie developers are aware of how difficult it is to make an enjoyable game. So instead of banking their success on a first release, a common practice is to first release the game in early access.
And why is a roguelite indie game about escaping hell over and over sound simple to play, just so perfect? It's not because these indie developers are the most talented or have oodles of cash on hand. It's because they did one thing and one thing only. They followed the fun. That game about escaping hell over and over is the breakout phenomenon Hades. And I can't think of a game or a game studio more focused than them on following the fun. Why? Because Supergiant Games spent 2 years with Hades in early access, making sure every detail of the game was what the community wanted. Hades creative director Greg Kasavin said this about its 2-year early access. With Hades, we identified that we wanted to make an early access game first and foremost, to see what we could build in partnership with our community.
Although Schedule 1 feels so complete, their first release in March was also early access. This gives developers a period to gain feedback from their audience. From that feedback, they can then fix bugs, add some features, and pretty much do anything that is required to improve the player experience. When a developer is making every decision with the mindset of, can I make it better for the player, the result will always be the best game possible. And that kind of bookends the biggest reason why indie games are winning right now. All these decisions that go into the game's development and release are all made to serve one party, the most important party. The player.
Us gamers really only want one thing: play a fun game, alone or with our buddies. And indie studios really understand this concept because they're gamers too. Indie studios these days are reminiscent of Tomohiro or the original Bungie team. Solo or small team developers who are focused on building something they or their community actually want to play.
The game design, the mechanics, the lore, even the price point of all indie games share the common goal of making the player experience better. That is why indie games are doing so well in the gaming industry right now. But that's not the full story. To be fair, indie games have always had this approach, so that's not the main reason why they are blowing up right now. This explosion of indie success is...
It might be because of the failure of a lot of AAA games that are doing the same monotonous thing over and over again and expecting it to land like, oh, we're going to give you the same copy of the game, but we're going to make it a little bit different. Oh, we're going to give you the same copy of the game. We're going to make it a little bit different, a little bit more expensive. And I get it. That's like, you know, what has to be done to make sure everybody gets paid within the studio and everything. But also, you're missing out on a lot of the actual processes of creating the games and taking risks with the games and things like that, which I understand, you know, there's a bottom line and everything. Nobody wants to see all the mass layoffs from a failed game, which is understandable. So I guess it's just a product of circumstances, and it looks like it's taking its effect. Okay, it stopped recording, but picking back up part 2. I'll re-record this a little bit.
It's less to do with the indies themselves, but more their big budget competitors.
Yep. Probably. So, like, due to the failure of AAA companies to actually mix up the formula and stuff like that, you know, just making these like monotonous same games copy paste every time is like, yo, I get it, you know, it's the safe bread and butter, you know, like you got to make these so you can make the other ones, right? You got to make these so that everybody can get paid, so you can stay alive and still make money, so that you can make the other games. I know what it is. The people know the people who are buying it know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. So I don't really have too much of a problem with those like staple ones. But after that, there's got to be some kind of vision of like, how do we expand this? How do we, you know, change it up so that it's more enjoyable, right? Because it's fine for the whole like formula, especially like Assassin's Creed up to Odyssey. How I know it as, it's like, you know, that game is really successful for a reason. It has a formula, and they change the formula sometimes. It's not completely the same. Like the first couple of Assassin's Creed games that are like purely assassin based are not the same as some of the more recent ones, like especially like up to Odyssey, who have this kind of like open world, open brawling combat feel to them. Like in a previous game, that would have been a no-go, right? So like they are evolving, but that's Assassin's Creed isn't really my issue. I'm only speaking for what I've had up to Odyssey, but for the copy paste like FIFA, 2K, stuff like that, Madden, I know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. Everyone who's buying it knows what it is. Only a couple roster changes a year. It's fine. I'm not not too mad about that. Of course, the microtransactions and everything, that's egregious. We know that. We know what that is. But yeah. That's my stance on that. That's what I'm betting that he's about to say.
Games. A AAA game simply refers to games that cost the most to develop and market, likening them to blockbusters of the gaming industry. Some popular AAA games include Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk 2077, and Zelda, which all had budgets of $100 million or more. In fact, if your game costs more than $100 million in 2025, chances are it's going to be a flop. So even with $100 million worth of resources to make the best game possible, how can AAA games continue to underperform? Firstly, a common approach taken by AAA studios is the open world design. Since the open world mechanic first gained popularity, every AAA studio has attempted their own open world game to get in on the action. And for a time, this was successful. But with each new release, open worlds needed to improve on the previous. AAA studios interpreted improvement as being bigger. So with each new release, the virtual world the player inhabits got bigger and bigger and bigger, to a point where now open worlds are bigger than ever.
Then on the flip side of that, if we were to now look at a load of the open world games that have come out over this time
I feel like maybe just the world being different is more important than it being bigger.
They have an open world that you can explore, but why explore something with no depth? But in the example of AC Valhalla, where it's a 70+ hour-long game, the open world actually does need to start being good. The story can't hold it up for 70 hours of the player's time, and even that wasn't that good in Valhalla. So because of the issue of shallowness, you end up with games like Valhalla that end up leaving a bad taste in your mouth for loads of these sorts of games. You're feeling as if you're being dragged through the game, and that playing them is nothing more than a chore.
If a player enters a virtual world
I
that
felt that
doesn't
way
feel
about some games,
alive
for
and
sure.
lived in, then they will struggle to immerse themselves
I don't
completely.
play
Every location they visit
a
will
lot
feel
of
like
them
a copy and
that are like
paste
that.
of
Like
the
if I
previous,
see them and I
which is
feel
a
like they're
feeling
gonna
that is
be like
also
that, I just
present
don't get them.
in their overall creative direction. Take a look at this graph. It shows the top AAA games of 2024. Now, you might notice a pattern. Of these top AAA games, many of them are either sequels or additions to pre-existing IP. Franchises like Madden, Call of Duty, and NBA 2K are all notorious for releasing a new game every year that is just a carbon
Couple
copy
roster
of the previous.
Gamers are tired of playing the same thing. We are tired of the formulaic nature of Ubisoft and most other AAA games.
Releasing the game
Like I
every
said,
year
I
but
like
with a
it.
slightly noticeable difference is
I
not
like it.
conducive to a rewarding player
Up to
experience.
Odyssey,
And it's
because
important
it's
that I
changed
mentioned that this does work
throughout the
financially.
course of
In
that
fact, the
as well. It's not
financial
the
side
exact
of
same
AAA
game.
games is exactly why
And the
they
historical
continue to
aspect.
reuse
They're always
the
really
copy
good
and
about
paste
the
model.
depth.
Because AAA Studios' idea of a successful game is completely different to that of indie games.
Why force your devs to work on the 100th Assassin's Creed when they want to work on something new and exciting? The answer? Stability and money. This may be obvious to everyone, but milking an IP over and over again is the easiest way to make money as an entertainment company.
With each game released being more expensive than the last, it's important that AAA games take every opportunity to make the most money possible to provide a profit for the studio's investors. So this means that every decision made when it comes to the making of the game, whether it be the design, mechanics, or IP, their goal is to make the most money possible. The biggest reason why this way of thinking is disliked by players is because it is all at the expense of the player experience. When the world is bigger and blander than ever, that isn't always good for the player. When the content of a new game is almost identical to the previous, that isn't always best for the player. And when a player purchases a game for $100 and then is asked to pay another $30 to access everything the game has, that isn't always
the
best for the
DLCs
player.
are getting
The
egregious.
biggest
They've
reason
been
for the
egregious for a
AAA
long
studios'
time now.
underperformance in recent years is not necessarily to do
My
with
thing
the
is
IP,
like,
game design.
My thing is like, okay, like, I get it. Make the bag off of the, I want to see what the books actually look like. Maybe I should actually look into what the books are actually being used for, because, like, I see all the money that's being made from, like, the microtransactions and everything, but, like, where is it going? That's what I want to know. I want to know, like, where is it going? Is it going to pay off, like, outstanding business debts? Is it going to pay off, like, you know, the people who are getting paid? Obviously not, because people are getting underpaid and cut off and all that, but I want to see what the actual books look like, because if you're going to be making all that money, like, scamming people essentially for not finishing the game, you better be doing something good with it. Like, what are you doing? Paying back investors or what? Like,
or cost. It is that what the player perceives as important in a game and what AAA studios perceive as important are not aligned. Players want the best game possible, whereas AAA studios want the best return possible. The question now following Schedule 1 stardom is if it will cause any change in the gaming industry. Well, for AAA studios to change their approach in any regard, the change has to create a monetary gain that they aren't currently capitalizing on. That has been a big reason for why they have been so stagnant in this period of dissatisfaction from gamers. Although the perceived quality of each release is decreasing, AAA titles are making more money than ever before.
Yeah,
so the only way
a lot more people are getting into gaming
makes
nowadays
the big
too.
Studios more money. As for
like,
indie
a lot of
games,
people haven't had to deal with the carbon copies. Like, a lot of people, like, these versions are the first ones
every
that they're
bad
playing.
AAA game released,
especially after the pandemic.
Great indie games are released simultaneously. I mean, why is the Untitled Goose Game the best stealth game I've ever played?
Hey! I'll just take this.
That is what makes indie games so special. A game like
He's
Schedule
capping,
1
though.
that challenges industry norms can rise above all the manicured AAA titles
He knows that
and
the
take
original
the top
Assassin's
spot on a
Creeds,
global
if he
scale.
played them, were
Indie
better.
games are and will continue to act as trailblazers. And if indie games continue to surpass their AAA competitors more consistently, then it might force AAA studios to pay attention. If AAA really is to change, then the path they take needs to be laid by indie games that achieve global success. One of the biggest examples of this is Minecraft. It's easy to forget that Minecraft was originally an indie game. Although now under the Microsoft umbrella, Minecraft was originally developed by a small team at Mojang Studios. It was first released in 2010 in alpha, an early access period, and it eventually grew more and more. Fan communities for the game grew to the point where they were able to host a convention to celebrate the launch of the full game in late 2011. And like it is today, this was a once-in-a-blue moon event where an independent release takes over the online world. Minecraft achieved this by doing the same thing as indie games do today. While most AAA games at the time were self-contained win-lose archetypes, Minecraft turned that format on its head. The game had no story, no instructions, just a near infinite open world sandbox and the player's imagination. Becoming the most successful game of all time, it broke the mold for what players could enjoy in a game. So the key takeaway from Schedule 1's success is that it perfectly illustrates the power that the player holds within the gaming industry. The passion and enthusiasm for a quality gaming experience is what drives progress within the gaming industry.
100%.
Without the player,
because why are you playing the game if
it's
not good?
If AAA titles are losing their quality,
why are you playing if it's not a fun experience?
Studios know. And when an indie game provides one of the most fun playing experiences in recent years, gamers will always be there to push it further into the limelight.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. That's a great video, man. I appreciate that video. I like that a lot. Robo, you got some solid stuff, buddy. You got some solid stuff. W knowledge. But yeah, that's going to be the video. Let me know what you guys think, everybody who's stuck around to this point in the video. Hardcore gamers, everybody. Let me know what you think about that and about the video itself. But, yeah. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.